Hello, my lovely algebra students. Welcome to my first video in the series of Samantha teaching math from her living room. In these videos I'm going to post, I am not going to be going through the entire lesson. I have a copy of the lesson right here. Instead, I'm usually just going to pick like one or two problems that I think we could all benefit from talking through a little more, and that I anticipate you may be having a little trouble with. So the problem I've picked for this video is number 3. It is the second example in the set of these notes. And the problem says, Gafar and Omotayo found a receipt for the movies for 15 people that was $180. They decide they would also like to go, but only have $36. And it goes on like a lot of our word problems do to ask you to represent it using an equation. The reason I chose this one to look at is because there are a couple different ways you can go about setting up an equation. The first way could be when you read 15 people cost $180, that relates back to something we had talked about back in pre-algebra B. That right there is a ratio. When I say ratio, remember that is a comparison of two numbers, two amounts. So we're saying 15 people cost $180. We could set that up as a ratio. So one way you could write your equation is starting off by saying 15 people cost $180. I'm going to take the words out and just write it as a ratio, which we're used to seeing as a fraction. Now, right now, this isn't an equation yet. This is just a ratio or a fraction. What we're trying to find is, it says they would also like to go, but only have $36. And the question says, write an equation that could be used to find the amount of tickets they can get with their $36. So what we're trying to find is how many tickets they can buy, how many people can go. I'm going to say T, which I'm just going to have represent the number of tickets they can buy. You could use P for people if you want. I'm using T for tickets, but it's the same idea. How many people can go, how many tickets they can buy. Now, right now we've got a ratio that says 15 people, $180. We are trying to find how many tickets for $36. So what I can do to make this an equation is I can set up another ratio. My second ratio being, if it's 15 people for $180, I need T over $36. Now I just did something here that's really important because this bottom number, our denominator, is talking about money and the top number is talking about how many people or how many tickets. You need to be consistent. So notice this is money, this is money, this is tickets, 15 tickets, and this is what we're trying to find, how many tickets. This is one way you can do it. And then you could go ahead and finish this by solving. What would we need to do to solve this? Take a moment and think. Are you thinking the words cross multiply? Hopefully. So you could go ahead and start by cross multiplying. Now when you go to cross multiply 180 times t, 180t, but when you go to cross multiply the other side, you notice those numbers are pretty large, 15 times 36. There's nothing wrong with going ahead and actually multiplying 15 times 36, but you can make this easier if you wanted to by, instead of cross multiplying first, simplifying your ratio here. Both ways give you the same answer, and if you look at the notes that I filled in for you all, I did it both ways. But since I don't know what 15 times 36 is off the top of my head, I'm going to go and simplify this ratio. Looking at these two numbers, do you see anything we could divide by? There's a couple things you could have said. You could have said 3, you could say 5. You can actually divide both of them by 15. It is up to you. I'm going to go ahead and divide by 3 first, because I know 15 divided by 3 is 5, and it's also easier for me to, in my head, say 180 divided by 3, because 18 divided by 3 is 6, so that would be 60. Then I'm just going to go ahead and simplify again by saying I can divide both of these by 5. 5 divided by 5 is 1, and 60 divided by 5 is 12. That now gives me 1 over 12 equals t over 36. So when I go to cross multiply, it's going to be a lot easier for me because, oh, look at that multiplication. 1 times 36 is 36. 12 times t is 12t. I'm running out of board space, but I can divide both sides by 12 and get 3 equals t. If you're a returning student, you know that I'm not done because I'm not going to say 3 equals t. I'm going to go ahead and take that and say that means they can get 3 tickets. Now, I said at the beginning of this video, I chose this problem because there's a lot of different ways you can do it. One way is setting it up like this with a proportion, 2 ratios, and solving it like that. I guess the second way is setting it up like this, but then simplifying first before you cross multiply. Both of those give you the same answer. The other way, though, that you can set this up with an equation is sometimes people read through this problem and they say, okay, Gafar and Umatayo found a receipt for the movies for 15 people. That was $180. And I've had students go in the class, why on earth do we care how much 15 people cost, right? If you go to the movie theater and they have this posted, you're going to be like, why do I care about that? I don't care about how much 15 people cost. What do we care about? We care about how much one person costs. You can't see my one. We care about how much one person costs. So what some people choose to do when they read this is they use that information to figure out how much one person costs. Pause for a second and ask yourself, how would you do that? How would you figure out how much one person costs? Are you saying division? Hopefully. We can divide. We can say 180 divided by 15. Well, 15 goes into 18 one time. 1 times 15 is 15, which leaves you with 3. And then 15 goes into 30 twice with no remainder. So we get that number 12 there. You might also recognize this was the ratio I had earlier that I was simplifying. But we just got 12. What did we just find? I know we found 12, but what does 12 represent? We found 15 people cost $180. We found one person cost $12. Now, why is that helpful? Well, I'm going to pause for a second and write out, we figured out $12 for one person. I'm just going to write $12 per ticket. Finding this out before you go to write an equation is helpful because of what we're trying to find. Remember, we're trying to find how many tickets they can buy. Once you know it's $12 per ticket, you can go ahead and use that information when you go to write your equation. So instead of setting up 2 ratios, you could go ahead and say 12t, meaning $12 per ticket, or $12 times the number of tickets you buy, is equal to what they have, which is a total of $36. The equation looks a lot simpler. It looks simpler because we went ahead and we did this math at the beginning. And then when you go to solve it, we'll divide both sides by 12. And, notice we get the same answer. They can buy 3 tickets. I show both ways because some people really like using what we learned about in pre-algebra with ratios, setting up a proportion, setting up those 2 equal fractions. Other people, when they read through this and they say, immediately, oh, let's figure out how much one ticket costs, this might be the easier way from them. So I present both options for you. What I want you to notice, though, is they all end up giving you the same answer. So it's up to you which way you choose. But like I said, I thought this would be a good one to talk through just because there are so many different ways you can do it. Hopefully you found this helpful. I know that this whole idea of learning math online and not being in class will probably be a little more challenging. So again, I thank you all in advance for how hard I know you're going to work over the next 2 weeks. It's okay if you're struggling with the technology. To be quite frank, I am a little bit too. But just feel free to reach out to me or Denise if you have any questions. And don't forget about our tutoring hours too that we've got set up if you've got any questions on the lesson, because math isn't always the easiest thing to be teaching yourself from home. We just ask that you try your best, and we know you guys are going to do great. So good luck, and I will see you tomorrow.